My mum tells a story about me coming in to pick her up from work. My dad dropped us down the bottom. We were waiting out the front. We couldn't get a hold of her, and her secretary couldn't get her. It was in a meeting, whatever. And Dad said, "Well, you go up to the 21st floor or whatever, and you pop your head in, and that might speed things up." And so I can't have been that old, but I traipsed in there and wandered up, and I get up to the boardroom or whatever, and the secretary lets me in because it's adorable. And I get in there, and my mum goes, "Oh, this is my daughter Matilda." And I looked around the room and I went, "Where are all the mums?" Like a classic child, there aren't women and men, there are mums and dads. And my mum was like, "Oh, isn't she adorable?" And all the men are like, "Oh." And my mum closes the door of the boardroom and turns to me and is like, "Never stop asking that question." I am generally a fairly angry person. And like I'm a little class warrior. So any kind of injustice gets me going. But I'm not particularly good when people do it to me. It's much clearer when it's happening to somebody else. The first time I was ever sexually harassed in a play, in a working environment or whatever, I remember feeling really embarrassed that I hadn't done anything about it. And realizing that the way to get my courage up was to imagine it was happening to my little sisters. And if I could imagine that it was happening to them, that there would be no hesitation about sort of turning up at his door with an axe, threatening him and his whole family kind of thing. The clarity when it's happening to somebody else is really great. You can really see that it's just bullying. But I think when it happens to yourself, there's a sort of a sense of, the ego can manage it or something, like I'm a bigger person. And at the end of the day, society is about kind of living with other people's shit behaviour and kind of tolerating it. And so you kind of think, oh, well, I'll pretzel myself to accommodate you, and I'm sure you're pretzeling yourself to accommodate me in some way. But the reality is some people aren't. The amount of times I've been walked in on while changing repeatedly. I've had actors expose themselves to me in rehearsals. I've had them grope me. I've had people make comments about that if you're an actress, and I certainly have a very bawdy sense of humour, that you just must be gagging for it. You're doing a warm-up, you're doing a downward dog on stage, and somebody walks up behind you and pretends to be, having sex with you, grabs your hips and starts grinding their penis against you. I should say, the first time that I was being sexually harassed in a job, the male cast came up to me, everybody except for this one dickhead. They all came up to me, and there was about 3 of them, and they came up to me and they said, "We see what's going on, and if you want to go to company management about it, we will testify for you." And I burst into tears because I was so humiliated that there was a problem. Because I'd been sort of, wandering along thinking, oh, it's fine, I can deal with it, it's all good, it's not a big deal, yada, yada, yada. And it was a problem, and they could see that it was a problem, and I just didn't have the guts to admit that I couldn't deal with it. And I didn't want to be labelled as some kind of difficult actress. So funny. I think the acting industry is rife with sexual harassment. And I think the tricky thing is that 2 things. One, it's kind of the art form of it. The alchemy gets a lot of play. And so any kind of attempt to regulate the play is seen as destroying that delicate art, which is bullshit, because if you can walk into a theatre and be given a safety induction, and if you can have a fight choreographer, and if you can be told when you have to turn up and you're told when the play begins and ends, there's no reason why you should have to be copping a feel. So that, and also this thing of like, it's supposed to be about playfulness. It's supposed to be about how we all kind of, you know, you get into a room with somebody when you're acting and it's like you're suddenly telling them stories that you've never thought about to tell your family or anything like that. Stuff that is incredibly intimate and incredibly personal, and you're doing stuff on stage that is the most heightened moments of your life. So moments where you're revealing the brutalness and your real vulnerability and your child and your all of those things and your judge. And you create that safe space. So the assumption is that if somebody is doing something and it's not making you feel good, you go, oh, well, I don't want to make a big deal out of it because it might ruin the safe playfulness that we've developed, this great community that we have, which is just extraordinary because actually they're the ones who have done something to destroy that safe space and to destroy that sense of community. It makes you feel powerless. It makes you feel aware that as lovey as the whole community is, when money is the bottom line, there's no family there. I think acting is being other people, but it's also about having an honesty in your responses to things and in the way that you can be truthful. And if you spend a lot of time denying that or pretending that you're okay or laughing at unfunny male jokes, you sort of lose sight of what you actually want and who you actually are. It's hard to bring any honesty to the table when you're having to kind of pretzel yourself sometimes. Our stories have been so limited for so many years in terms of what we can be. Virgin, you're crone, and you're fuckable. Mother or matron. Ditzy or villain. We're not given a huge amount of stuff that we can see, but I think it's that cool thing where we have great empathy. You know, everybody's had to spend 450 years imagining themselves as Hamlet, even though he's a straight white man, and they get something out of it. If you've got the same people breeding, and by that I mean making their stories, and that's all you're getting, just this circle jerk, then nothing else comes in and the ecology atrophies. You need biodiversity. You need a variety of voices to create a healthy, strong ecology. We are more robust than we give ourselves credit for. We can hold contradictory thoughts in our heads all the time. The more voices you get, the more difference that you get, and allow that to be part of it and have empathy for those people, the stronger we'll all be. And then it will be paradise. And honey will come from the fire hydrants, milk and honey. And everyone will get to wear slippers all the time.